Wondering what to do with your life? Or maybe you already have an idea, but you just still don't know how to get there. Well, we've been there, and we're here to help. At Roadtrip Nation, we're constantly sending groups out in our big, bright green RVs to interview all kinds of inspiring people, so that we can bring their incredible stories, insights, and guidance to you. You can explore all of our documentaries, interviews, and more.
Come on, come on, come on. How you doing? Let me stop you for a second. I ain't selling you myself, but yeah, I'm selling self-expression.
Because there are so many messages out there pulling us in different directions. Sometimes it can feel like the world is trying to force us all onto an assembly line. And it can seem impossible to find a career and a life that's true to who you are. And that's where we come in, with stories and tools to help you define your own road in life.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Roadtrip Nation's live Q&A on tackling change and finding your way forward. My name is Jenny and I work here on the events team, and I'll be your host for today. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Roadtrip Nation, we are an educational nonprofit with the goal of helping people find fulfilling careers that connect with your interests. But before we dive deeper into the event, I do want to address how challenging and difficult these past few months have been. I know there are a lot of changes going on in the world. And, you know, whether you're graduating from classes, finishing up classes, transitioning into the workforce, or at an inflection point in your life, to have all of those changes on top of, you know, the recent events that have shown light on the systemic racism and injustices in our country, all with the backdrop of a global health pandemic. That is a lot. And it takes a lot to continue to show up and to navigate how to move forward. So how do you tackle change? And how can you find your place in this new normal? This conversation is, you know, really about these questions. So if you have any questions throughout the event, please feel free to type them in the chat and we will make sure to get to most of them. All right. So here at Roadtrip Nation, we find the value in talking to people from all walks of life and different career paths, and elevating those stories is so important because there are so many different ways that you can find a career that works for you. And so it all starts with exploration, right? Every year we send out people on the road. We call them road trippers. We send them out in the big green RV. And they talk to professionals and people in jobs that they love and ask them, how did you get to where you are today? What struggles did you have to overcome? And what advice do you have for us? These conversations and journeys are filmed and turned into a documentary series on public television. Last year, fueled by AT&T, we sent 3 young people, Taiheem, Yasmine, and Denise, who you'll be able to meet in just a bit, on a trip to talk to professionals about the challenges of moving forward in their career. The documentary series is called To Be Determined, and it's out now online for free to watch. This trip couldn't have been possible without the support of AT&T, so I'm going to pass it over to MYLAYNA to say a few words.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much, Jenny. I'm MYLAYNA ALBRIGHT, Assistant Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility at AT&T. I'm so excited about today's event as we watch Taiheem, Yasmine, and Denise take one of the most important journeys of their lives. I'm so excited for what the future holds for them. And this experience will also create pathways for many of you as you follow along for each of these upcoming episodes. Through our AT&T Aspire program, we have invested more than $550 million over the past 12 years. We are committed to community impact and education. Our work helps opportunity youth to build critical skills that lead to economic empowerment. We partner with some of the organizations that the road trippers will visit, including Year Up and Scholas. The advice that I would give to youth who are tuned in is to believe in yourselves. You can do whatever it is that you dream of. Take advantage of your social capital. Adults in your community will be the best resources on your path to your future careers. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in, and I'll pass it back to Jenny now.
Thank you so much, MYLAYNA. You know, one of the the best things about virtual events is you can tune in from anywhere. So I would love to see where everyone is tuning in from, whether you're representing your city or a program or organization. Please type them in the chat. We want to see where you're coming in from. Today, we'll be talking to 3 road trippers from the film, To Be Determined. And we just want to catch up with them and see what they've been up to since the end of their journey and see how they've been finding their place in the new normal. These road trippers are also alumni of workforce development programs, Year Up, Scholas, and Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. These workforce programs were designed to help people develop the skills needed to thrive in a changing economy. And we've seen the impact of these programs through the stories of these alumni, so you'll get to hear a little bit about that later. We'll also be showing some clips from the series, and in the end, we will be joined by the 3 CEOs from the workforce development programs. Even if you're not currently in a workforce development program, this panel has a ton of wisdom to share about how you can take small steps to create new opportunities for yourself. So once again, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we'll get to them as best we can. Without further ado, please welcome our 3 road trippers, Yasmine, Denise, and Taiheem.
Hey!
Hi!
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
How are
everybody.
you all doing?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Doing good.
doing
How are
fine.
you? It's so good to
I'm
see your
good.
faces. So let's start off with introducing. Let's start off with introducing ourselves. Go ahead and say your name and where you're calling in from, and we can start with that. Taiheem, we can start with you.
Hi, my name is Taiheem Wentt. I'm 27 and I'm calling from the Bronx. Hello to the youth and hello to anybody else interested in finding out a new path in life, you know?
Nice. Denise?
Hi everyone, my name is Denise Flores. I'm now 27 years old and I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York. And I'm an alumni from Year Up.
Yasmine?
All right. I am the Yasmine Tolbert, and I am from Harvey, Illinois, and now I'm 25.
All right, let's
Time
take it
flies.
back a little bit before we show a clip from the film. But what was your mindset, before the journey started, before you're about to hit the road? Where was your mindset at? Did you have any worries? Did you have any goals that you wanted to accomplish? Can you all speak a little bit on that? Denise, we can start with you this time.
Mm-hmm. So I definitely had so many worries because I had never been in an RV, especially with people that I had just recently met but are now one of my closest friends, and I consider them family. So I was just so nervous because first of all, I've never really traveled further, like that far, and going all throughout the East Coast in an RV. I was just scared. I didn't know what I got myself into. And yeah, just stepping out of my comfort zone. But I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because now I can look back and look at the journey that I've been on and, watch it for many years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yasmine, what about
Yes,
you? What were some of your thoughts going into the road trip?
Yeah, so going into the road trip, I wasn't too much nervous. I was kind of concerned about being away from home for so long, just thinking about how things back home would affect me while I was on the road. But I was more excited about the new things I was going to get to experience, the stuff that I was going to get to see. And I knew I wanted this change, but I was curious to see how it was going to change on the trip. So it was more excitement than, worry or anything.
I love that. And Taiheem, what about you?
Well, I had graduated from Scholas, started working in IT. I have my 2 beautiful daughters, and I was at a point where I felt like I overcame some of my personal, struggles, but I still had some questions I wanted answered, and I wanted to explore something new, and this represented an opportunity where I can do that and possibly change my life. So I was excited.
Yeah.
Really.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for being here today. we're going to take a look back to a year ago and take a glimpse into what the road trippers' journey looked like. Here is the journey, or here's a trailer of the newest documentary series, To Be Determined. Enjoy.
As a kid, jumping around from shelter to shelter, I would go through like these bouts of depression.
Growing up, my neighborhood wasn't the safest. It's a lot of crime that goes on. It's a lot of drug addicts and a lot of drug dealers.
I work 2 full-time jobs, 80 hours a week, and I don't want to be stuck in that cycle just so I can help out with the rents and pay the bills.
I don't want to feel like I have to move out of my community because I can't succeed in my community.
I'll be going on an RV with 2 strangers.
Oh my gosh!
Cross country.
On a road trip for 3 weeks.
Interviewing people who started off with similar backgrounds like myself.
Wow! Ho-ho!
And they're gonna show us what they did to actually pull them through. That was...
I get a chance to ask some difficult questions, some things that I may be struggling with.
To actually see somebody that came from a situation similar to myself. Instead of going to drugs, instead of turning to other things, he used that energy and put it towards something else.
Being a Latina in the finance industry, it's kind of like, if she can do it, then I can do it.
In a lot of places I worked in IT, I'm usually the only person of color. To see where he's at, man, it just feels great.
If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Whatever you do, don't stop.
You came to us as planes with the engines and the wings intact, but every plane needs a runway to take off. All we do is provide opportunity. You do the changing.
Sometimes that's all you need is just the opportunity, somebody to invest in you and say, hey, I see something different in you.
I was one of those opportunity youth that just needed an opportunity. I just needed a chance to change my projected outcome.
Some of these interviews like echo in my mind before I go to sleep.
Part of our responsibility is to help the employers understand that our communities are filled with untapped potential.
You are representative of the communities you came from, and now through your example, people that have grown up in the same community see that they have options.
The trip isn't even over and I already have a different outlook on life and ways I want to approach different situations.
I can't wait to see what all the other interviews will be like.
Y'all were not lying about it's going to be a change from the city. Like,
I want to come home with as much information as I can.
I want to see where else this road leads me. How else can I transform?
Wow, wow, wow. I have seen that trailer so many times and I get chills every time I see it. Before we hop into the Q&A, I do want to shout out some people. We have a lot of people tuning in from Chicago, California, Providence, Rhode Island, the Bronx. Carter Chronicles says, hi, Yasmine, I'm from Harvey too. So we've got some folks from there. We've got love from India as well. So welcome, everyone. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, so watching this series again, was there a moment that really stuck out to you all? Any thoughts that you forgot about, or any moments that you forgot about and just was a highlight for you when you were watching this series again? Yasmine, we can start with you.
Man, there was so many, but I would have to say the cave. The cave was really one dope experience that really made me think about like life, because we went so deep underneath the ground, and then it's like in versus to when we went to Chicago, we were so high off the ground. It kind of just showed like the highs and the lows. So I think going to the cave was a really dope one that kind of brought me back to that awe moment, and the different interviews too.
Nice. Yeah, you had a lot of like moments because you were I feel like you were starstruck a lot with a lot of these cities that you went to.
Man, New York was amazing. Like, it was amazing. It was lights everywhere. You couldn't turn around and it wasn't a light.
Nice. Oh, I'm so glad we got to see you in that journey. Taiheem, what about you? Any moment that stuck out to you when you were watching the series?
Definitely. I mean, there wasn't a moment that didn't, but I would say what was kind of like a true like wake up call was when we first went to Atlanta to Stone Mountain. It was like a fish out of water kind of experience because I've grown up in the city. That's all I've known, like Riverbank, State Park, or Fort Greene in Brooklyn, or riding the Staten Island Ferry. So to go like that, I mean, that mountain was so big. It looked like you could just grab that punch in front of you. So that was definitely, and it was fresh. It was early on into the series, so it was definitely like the first. Oh man, I remember this moment.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. Denise, what about you? What moment really stuck out to you?
The moment that really definitely stuck out to me was Chicago, just because I've always heard of the city, the Windy City. You gotta, try their pizza and compare it to Brooklyn pizza, New York City pizza. So on top of that, we ended it with like a bang, going up to the tower and, seeing the skyline. And I'm actually afraid of heights, if you don't know. So when I was like jumping up and down in the elevator, I was kind of like trying to get over my fear of like, wow, I'm actually going to be standing above the city. So it was, kind of went along with the theme of trying to, reinvent myself and getting over some fears. And yeah, I took that ledge. I stepped on that ledge and it was amazing. So that's why it definitely stood out to me.
Yeah. That shows so much courage. You did step on that ledge. And, your thoughts at the end of the film, too, was amazing. Well, these past few months, there have been a lot of changes, as you all may know. Can you all talk a little bit about how you've been feeling and, what have you been doing in these times of changes? Taiheem, we can start with you.
I would definitely, thank you. I would definitely say during this time of change with everybody working remote, a major shift in education, going remote almost entirely, and having 2 young children myself, I definitely was thinking about how could I make my skill set relevant now, and how can I improve my skill set, So I started to reach out to other young professionals and other professionals I've come across, and just ask, like, if somebody didn't have a job or somebody was looking to get into this career, what advice could you tell them, and what trainings or what resources are available for them to, learn a little bit more about it. And I started sharing and reposting on Facebook, and we picked up a bit of steam and started like a small Facebook group. But I would definitely advise, like, try to learn something right now. Try to skill up. There's a lot of initiatives where they just want you to learn, and I would say take advantage of it. For me, if you're going down the IT path, networking right now, honestly, is like an essential skill. Everyone's on Zoom. Everyone's using Wi-Fi. Everyone has LAN connected. If you're down on your luck, and you study up, you could possibly make some money going door to door, helping people set up like wireless repeaters for the home, because more people are using it. Just little things like that you can do to, make your day progress, make some extra income, and have something to add to your resume. It doesn't matter at what age.
That's great advice. Yasmine, I know in the series you talked a lot about wanting to give back to your community. Can you talk a little bit about, what steps you've taken to reconnect with your community, or if you've started giving back to your community after the road trip?
Yeah, so I've actually gotten involved a little bit more with the program that helped bring me through and introduced me to Roadtrip Nation. So I got a chance to bring a few of my family members and friends to that program and actually show them that you don't just have to sit back and wait for something to be handed to you. If you want it, go get it. And you got people out there that's willing to help you to achieve it. So, I've been taking the initiative to bring a lot of friends and family in and tell them about the program, as well as I got a new job because due to the pandemic, I was in healthcare. So I'm also diabetic. So due to the pandemic, I had to find a new job, and I'm working for the IRS, and it's pretty cool just to see how different it is around the world and how everyone's being impacted by what's going on around us. So outside of doing the work at home and getting my hands dirty, I get a chance to be a help to someone else as a customer service rep and help them in that way.
That's amazing. Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you. Thank you.
What about you, Denise? Yeah, Denise, I know at the end of the... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So basically just getting adjusted to my work from home schedule. Since the road trip, I'm happy to announce that I've become a prime employee at Newburger Berman, which is where I was interning at the time. Yeah, so, just definitely taking it day by day, learning so much, working with wonderful people. The firm is amazing, and, huge advocate for Europe. So during my downtime, I've, continued networking, speaking to my mentors, my managers, and just recently, actually, starting in June, I started a new role at the company. So I'm so excited to, really taking all this knowledge and using my downtime as much as I can. And really, during the pandemic, I actually had a family member who was affected with COVID. So just really trying to appreciate all the time that I have with my family and, appreciate the time that I can, take a break here and have lunch with them or have dinner with them. So, it's really made me appreciate my surroundings a whole lot more and definitely take a break from the busyness and, cherish it with loved ones. And Taiheem, I love that you spoke about skill life, because right now in the pandemic, so many people have unfortunately lost their jobs, and there's such a high employment rate that I think it's the perfect opportunity to look into these workforce development programs or just any type of additional certification programs online and try to, maybe bridge that gap and really level up and become more aware of maybe finding a passion that they weren't aware of before, and really just working to being their best selves.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Denise.
Of course.
Very well said.
Yeah, it was really well said.
Thanks.
Now, during these times, what are some ways that you all have, or what are some things that you have done for some self-care? Taiheem, we can start with you.
So for self-care, I would say I make a lot of beats, and I started just writing a lot more creatively in terms of music, and just spending more time with the girls. They started playing Sonic, so that's something that we've been bonding over, and just trying to take it easy and really slow down and cherish this time that I've been able to work from home. That's how I've been able to have some self-care. Oh, and my girl got me to do my toes and my fingernails. So I'm like, all right,
it's much needed.
So that's some self-care right there.
That's definitely self-care. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
Yasmine, what about you?
Well, I recently just moved into my own place. So for self-care, I'm actually just making it my own, getting a chance to actually expand past just one room. I have a lot. So I'm getting a chance to actually get to know myself and get better acquainted with myself. And I've been doing a lot of cooking, especially since the pandemic, been cooking a lot. And I guess just relaxing, getting a chance to actually be me and embrace this new woman I've become. So yeah, just been living a stress-free life.
That's beautiful. And Denise, what about you?
definitely just trying to go more towards the healthy route. I've been drinking more water, trying to eat more greens, and even like the small stuff, like doing a little bit of yoga in my room and going out and taking a nice walk during my lunch break, or taking in just the air, the environment. It's funny because in the documentary you do see like a snippet of my roof, so I'm like, wait, I don't really go up there that often, but let me just go and just take it in, just like the documentary. So just definitely just trying to breathe in and breathe out, and trying to take care of myself.
That's good. I think that's really important during this time too. Well, thank you all for sharing that. I do have time for one more question, but before I ask that, let's show a clip of these road trippers on their last day. We have a tradition where we invite the people that we interview to come into the RV and write one piece of advice on the RV. So on the last day, the road trippers got to leave some words in the RV. Let's check it out.
I look back at myself at 18 and I'm just like, wow, it was so foolish. Like, how could I think that I would have everything perfect by 25? Like, no one has their life perfect at 25. I think it does more harm than good by setting this expectation of yourself that, might not be attainable.
So I wrote, don't stress. There's no such thing as perfection to make your life a masterpiece. Life, I made a mistake, not perfect, see, should be live the way you want. Be you, because la vida de por sí sigue, because life continues on anyway.
The Taiheem 3 and 4 months ago, I was afraid to take risks. I had a huge fear of failing, and I was too ashamed before to open up about my struggles with people. But going on this trip made me step back. Hearing other people's journeys made me appreciate not only their story, but my own story, and how hard I worked to get to where I'm at.
Never be ashamed to fail. Never be ashamed of your story. You should only be ashamed if you never tell someone. Taiheem Wentt.
All right.
I like that one.
Okay, that was deep.
That's good.
The old me was dealing with a lot, and she didn't know how to sort that stuff out to get through it. The girl I am now, I feel so phenomenal, but it was because I literally felt like I was on my rock bottom, my last limb, that I reached out and I tried to find another outlet. Now, oh my God, now I'm more courageous. I'm gonna be a force to be reckoned with.
All right, so it says life is a lesson to be learned, not a problem to be solved. Let that sink in.
I love that. I always get really pumped when you're like up the rocky steps and doing those punches. I love that part.
Oh man, that was fun.
So good.
So many steps.
Man, that was so much fun.
So-
That view was like amazing.
So, we always like to wrap up these conversations with one piece of advice. And since today's theme is, tackling change and finding your place in the new normal, I would love to hear from you, Yasmine. What is a piece of advice for those who are tuning in right now on how they can tackle change and find a place in the new normal?
My advice to anyone who wants to tackle change is it starts with you. You are your biggest competitor. You are your biggest cheerleader. You have to decide what you can take, what you can handle, and what you really want to do in order for you to succeed and tackle whatever else is trying to block you, It's all about self-perseverance, and you got to give it your all in order to change.
Yes. Powerful
Absolutely.
words.
Thank you.
And Denise, what about you? What is one piece of advice for someone who may be in your shoes when you were saying that you're a work in progress, and you continue to be? What is one piece of advice for someone tuning in your shoes?
I would definitely say, keep going, because you'll never know how far you've gone until you look back. So even if at this moment you feel like you aren't at your best version of yourself, you don't know that until you keep taking steps forward and you look back and see all that you've accomplished. And you should never be disappointing yourself. You should always just keep growing, because like I said, And I wrote down in the RV, la vida siempre sigue. So life continues anyway. Like, you only have one life, and you should definitely live it up to be the best version of yourself and do what you're passionate about and what you love.
Yes, that is beautiful. Love that. And Taiheem, I know how important your daughters are to you. So in this ever-changing world, what words of advice would you like to say to your daughters?
Wow. To my daughters, I want to say to them to never be afraid to experience something new, to not allow the things that are happening around them to affect them to the point where they aren't able to walk around with their head up, a smile on their face, to see that, that there's different people everywhere, and some people have just refused to change, and you can see the differences among those kinds of people. So I would just say to them to always remember that this too shall pass and things will change. You won't have the same friends like that you started out with 9 times out of 10. You won't have the same that you started off with. Relationships, they begin to grow, and at times they don't last. But it's that change that happens each time that causes you to grow a bit more every time. So I want you, the Sapphire, to know that. And Daddy loves you very much. And you too, baby.
Oh. Thanks for sharing that, Taiheem. And thank you all so much for this conversation. You all stick around. We're going to bring some special guests joining us. I know you all are excited. But up next, we have the 3 CEOs from the workforce development programs that the Road Trippers are alumni of. We're going to be introducing Gerald Chertavian, the CEO of Europe, Plinio Ayala, President and CEO of Scholas, and Karin Norington-Reaves, who is the CEO of the Chicago Cook Workforce. Now, before I introduce you to them, let's take a look at some of the advice that they gave a year ago to you all.
You wanted to change people's lives, and you wanted to close that opportunity gap. And in closing, how does it feel knowing that you're actually doing that? And you're sitting with, products of these ideals. How does it feel?
The 2 things I'd say is, one is, and I honestly mean this, I've never ever felt like I'm changing someone's life. I've never felt like that. I've felt like you change your life. You just need an opportunity to do it. It's like, to me, it would be arrogant or disrespectful to say, like, I'm going to change you. Like, imagine that. Someone comes up to me, hey, Gerald, I'm going to change you. Really? No. I'll decide whether I want to change myself. But I always say to our students, you came to us as planes with the engines and the wings intact, right? You showed up day 1 with strong engines and strong wings, but every plane needs a runway to take off, right? And without the runway, it's really hard for a plane to get off the ground. But we always know our role, especially at Year Up, is we don't cause the plane to take off. Ride in this nation, let's do it. Be well, Gerald Chertavian.
I know where y'all were once at, right? It's because I was there. What you have accomplished in your lives, and you're all relatively young, you said, you know what? I'm not gonna let the circumstances of my past dictate where I'm gonna go. As you guys progress in your careers, wherever you end up, don't forget where you came from. And if you have a chance to pull somebody along, it's your responsibility to do that. Don't forget where you came from, but more importantly, don't let your yesterdays drive your tomorrows.
I love it.
It's empowering, and it made me have a pride in myself and my story and my struggle. I wasn't
We can move mountains because we're then talking about millions of people bringing other people along, and that's where you create change.
It's really nice to know that there are a lot of people who want to continue to help the next class, and maybe I can do that moving forward.
This information is needed in my community for real. I don't want to feel like I have to move out of my community because I can't succeed in my community. And if I got to be the person to start it off and break that curse, so be it.
Part of our responsibility is to help the employers understand that our communities are filled with untapped potential. And part of that is, how do you shift your practices so that you give a Taiheem or a Denise or a Yasmine a chance, right?
Yeah.
What do you do to change your practices so that it's not all about some standardized test or an applicant tracking system that is designed to keep you out and not let you in? What do you do to shift your practices that allow you to see the actual potential and aptitude and capacity that you all represent, and recognize how that translates into economic growth for your company, but from my perspective, economic empowerment for you?
Yeah, so this is our crib. Man, she is amazing. Let's start there. Like, this whole trip, I've been hearing about people making themselves so selfless. I've met somebody that made herself selfless to me. And every single day, you literally going to work and you're making sure that every day counts for somebody that can't do it on their own. It just brought tears to my eyes because I felt so overwhelmed. So tomorrow is literally our last day together. What is one piece of information that we can use to give to everybody that's willing to listen when we get home after this road trip?
So your trip is ending, but your journey isn't over.
Exactly.
Right? So you still have so much potential and so many other opportunities that await you. So the one thing I'm going to say to you is the same thing my mother said to me all my life. You can do anything you put your mind to, even eat an elephant, as long as you do it one bite at a time. If you don't remember anything, remember that.
Okay, I don't want to leave you guys.
Wow, it gets me every time to watch all of the advice. It's so good and inspiring. I do want to mention, if the video glitched on you for a little or anything at all, you can catch the entire series online. It is available now to watch. And also another reminder, if you have questions for these CEOs, please type them in the chat so we can get to them. But I would like to introduce you all to our 3 CEOs, Gerald, Karin, and Plinio. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you all doing?
Good.
Doing great, thanks.
Good,
Totally
thank you
inspired
so
by
much.
our student.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with us.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We can go around, and I would love for you to introduce yourself and maybe mention a little bit about what your organization does. Gerald, we can start with you.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Gerald Chertavian. I'm the founder and CEO of Year Up. Year Up's a national nonprofit organization that works with low-income 18 to 24-year-olds, and in 1 year or less, enables those young adults to go from either low income or no income to a livable wage job in one of the best companies in this country.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Karin, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Karin Norington-Reaves. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Workforce Partnership. We oversee the workforce development system for the city of Chicago and Cook County. And we fund a number of youth programs as well as programs for adults. Our system, we manage workforce centers as well as a host of other activities with employers, and we make sure that young people get connected to paid internships and other training programs and then permanent employment.
Amazing. And lastly, but not least, Plinio. Oh, Plinio, are you on mute?
Yes, I was. So I apologize for that. I was saying how much of a treat it is to be on this panel with my friend Gerald and my new friend Karin. Scholas is a 25-year-old IT workforce development organization working with employers to design models that allow us to provide our students the skills to enter and succeed in successful IT careers. We are in 14 cities across the country now, serving several thousand people in the cities that we're in.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. I am curious to know, amidst all of these changes, what kind of pivots are your orgs making to address things like the COVID-19 crisis and the Black Lives Matter movement? Karin, we can start with you first.
Sure. So we serve annually about 140,000 people a year through all of our workforce centers and our different programs. And we have been physically closed down to the public. So we have had to change all of our programming to virtual service delivery, which is challenging. Obviously, all of our staff are also working from home. Big challenge is making sure that we're addressing the fact that people here are impacted by the digital divide. So they may not have access to broadband, they may not have access to computers. And so we've had to be creative around creating systems that allow people to actually enroll in our services by just taking a picture of their documents and uploading them on a number of different things where we've had to pivot. And then in the context of the civil unrest, it's been, as you can well imagine, in the city of Chicago, we've commercial districts devastated. For the communities in which we live in, as well as the citizens that we're serving. And one of the things that we've really started to focus on is racial equity as a workforce development matter.
Wow, thank you. Plinio, what about you? What are some pivots that your org has been making?
Yeah, I think one of the strengths of Scholas is our willingness to change, sort of embracing change. And so we began to think about virtual training late last year and invested in both the technology and in staff to be able to pilot a couple of models at the beginning of this year, never thinking that we would need to accelerate that. But in March, when we decided to pivot to virtual, we were able to move 521 of our students to online training. And as Karin mentioned, we had to deal with all of the issues that are real in our communities. The digital divide is still very strong. And so we had to quickly deploy devices for our students to ensure that they can complete the program. And at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. 90% of our students have graduated, several hundred are already working. And so we are thinking through now, how do we take advantage of this new virtual world that we're living in to scale our model.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. And Gerald?
Yeah, similar to Plinio, we moved several thousand students to an online virtual environment in March. And yet again, our students did incredibly well, right? They adjusted, they adapted, they persevered, they learned the hard and soft skills in that environment. And we had, similar to Plinio, we're planning on doing this more. We had tested some of it in the past. And what it showed us is we can better serve students by using technology, by using virtual access at times, not 100%, but where appropriate. So it's accelerated some of those plans. And yet again, our students have proven they are hugely adaptable in different environments. So that's kind of internally. And then with regard to the movement against police brutality and systemic racism, we've looked internally as an organization, say what type of work can we do, whether it's additional training in racial equity, whether it's in really looking hard internally at how we're doing as an organization, which is important, and working with our partners, many of whom have said they want to hire more Black Americans, and to say, how do we work with them, not just hire individuals, but to ensure that those individuals are advanced, retained, and developed within those corporate environments. So that's been a lot of our time and energy over the past few months.
Yeah, amazing. We do have a question from one of the audience members here, from Michelle. The road trippers clearly learned so much from each of you. Curious what each of you took away from these interviews. Karin, we can start with you again.
The thing that I took away is that it really affirmed what I already firmly believe, which is that our young people in our communities across this country are so often undervalued, and employers don't really seem to know how amazing our kids are, the incredible characteristics and the integrity, the perseverance, the resilience that they already demonstrate because of all the things that they've had to endure, and how all of that translates into phenomenal assets in the workplace. So what my experience with Denise and Taiheem and Yasmine did for me was just redouble my effort to make sure that our young people are amplified as assets as opposed to the deficits that get highlighted in the media.
Yeah. Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you. Plinio, what did you take away from the interview?
I agree with everything that Karin said. You know, we look at folks that we serve, the people that, you know, I grew up in the South Bronx, so I connected quickly with Taiheem and Yasmine and Denise, and in many ways experienced the things that they experienced. And Gerald talked about this in the video. You know, there is immense talent in our communities across this country. What's missing is the opportunity. And once given that opportunity, you can see our folks do amazingly well. The question is, how do we create more of these opportunities? I think that's our responsibility to figure that out. And I know Karin is doing that, Gerald is doing that, and we certainly are. We just need to make sure others are doing it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Gerald?
You know, anytime I get a chance to be with our young adults, our students, I think so often that we need to create the space for them to use their voices, to use their power. Because let's be honest, the generation that I represent has not done enough job in some of the key elements of our country, whether it's climate change, whether it's equality. And the fact is we need to make sure we're amplifying their voices, we're stepping aside to allow them to lead and to come into their own. Because frankly, our country will be better under their voices, under their leadership, and we've got to make the space for that to happen.
Well said. And speaking of the road trippers, I know they're really excited to reconnect with you all. So can we bring them back on? I'm going to give them some time right now to ask some questions.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, you gotta teach me those moves.
There we go.
Oh my God. So good to see you guys.
You know, take this time to ask some questions. Yasmine, Taiheem, Denise. I know you were all excited to talk to Karin, Plinio, and Gerald.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, we were.
There's so many. Oh man, there's so much going on. I guess I want to just start with a bit more of a general question. Like, where were you when COVID hit, and what were some of your initial thoughts? Like, as everybody had to go home, like that first day. Oh, this is for Ayala.
So I was one of those folks who very early on, let me clarify, very early on, I was like, oh, the flu is more deadly. Oh, not such a big deal. And then it's a snowball. And so the day that the governor told us that we had to shut down our workforce centers, and we had been doing some planning ahead of that, but that was when it really hit me. Between that and the day that the schools closed, and I realized that not only did I need to be home, but my staff really needed to be home to support their families and make sure that they were taking care of their children as well as elderly parents in some instances. That really hit me, and just sort of the responsibility that I had for this entire to make sure that we were still able to provide this and that folks like ourselves were still able to access training, and we were still getting people hired during this time. But it was the magnitude of it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I have a question for Gerald. Gerald, I remember during my time interning at Newburgh Berman, one of my favorite things to do is, go grab coffee and, meet all these amazing people and really try to build like that bond with my managers and even everyone at Year Up, my mentors. So how do you see that interns are progressing during this pandemic? Like, what were some changes that you had to do with the firm, with Year Up overall, to make sure that every student was actively engaged in their internship and really given this enriching experience and taking the most out of it?
It's a really good question. The very first thought was which of our students is undergoing hardship and how do we respond as quickly as we possibly can. Many of our students, whether family members lost jobs, they've found themselves in unstable situations. The first thing is check in with every student, every intern, and figure out, are they going through right now a hardship that we can try to address? Once you do that, the question is, okay, how are you now working? How are you connecting to that internship remotely? You need additional infrastructure, hardware, MiFi connection, or what do you need to connect? And then how are you managing that environment? The corporate partners were fantastic, super supportive. They knew that there may be some downtime my students would have during this process. They were excited for them to keep learning, to get new certifications. So we kind of doubled down to help manage that relationship with our partners. And many of our students did incredibly well during the internship. And now, as we talk to our partners, more folks in this country will work remotely full-time. And so this is going to be a new skill set for folks to keep learning. And, I'm betting on our students 100% to keep learning those skills to work in an environment that'll be more remote in the future.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gerald.
All right, Mr. Plinio, I have a question for you. So as I was listening, I did hear you mention how Scholas took precaution and automatically, well, not automatically, but had started to transition over to doing virtual class learning. Now that the pandemic has hit and it has switched over our whole way of knowing things and the way of doing things as far as our norm goes, how do you foresee the company as well as your personal life going forward with this new change of technology, knowing that you're over such a great, phenomenal IT field?
That's an awesome question. I think the world has changed forever, but we need to be careful not to go too extreme to one side. I think we are learning a great deal about virtual training, and I think at the end of the day, we'll become very good at it. But not everybody will benefit from virtual training. I think that there are folks that still need that in-classroom experience, and we need to be mindful that that's an important piece of who we are and who we'll be going forward. For me personally, I think I frankly am struggling being home because we are in the business that we need people around us, right? And I'm looking forward to the day where we get back into the offices and I can hang out with staff and with students. But one thing that I reflect upon is that in the middle of this pandemic, I've been given a gift, right? The fact that I now have time to be able to be thoughtful and strategic about reconnecting with my kids and my wife has been extremely special to me. So I've learned a lot of lessons around that, and I think I'll be a better husband and a father as a result of this. And there are things I won't sacrifice, right? Like dinner with the family is something that we will make sure that happens going forward, because that's incredibly important.
Yes. I love that. That's so good. Oh man, the conversations are going so well right now, but we are running out of time. We do have a question from an audience member here that I would love to ask, saying, as a student graduating this month from Year Up, Rhode Island, what advice would you all give entering the current workforce? That's from Jesus. Gerald, we can start with you.
Sure. Look, networking now is going to be more important than ever. We're all working virtually, so you can get hold of people a lot more easily today. But keep building a network, reaching out to people, introducing yourself. Use the network you have to build a little bit larger. And I tell you, your persistence at that will pay off, and you'll get that opportunity, that job that you deserve, having gone through the Year Up program.
Great advice.
Yeah, I would add to that.
What about?
I think Gerald is right. Don't be shy about asking for help. I think generally everyone is ready to help. And using your network and being persistent, I think, is sort of the key going forward.
Yes. And what about you, Karin? What pieces of advice do you have for those who are tuning in?
Yeah, so Plinio touched on it, so persistence and adaptability. So clearly I've been bombed here. And you've got to just be able to roll with the punches because life is not as predictable or as laid out as you may want it to be. You have to be able to pivot, and you have to be able to adapt to whatever the circumstances are, and use those as opportunities for flexing muscle and learning and growing beyond, and just learning from each of those lessons that come up. And so I think that flexibility and adaptability is going to be really, really important. And in terms of that job search, that job hunt, you may not get the divine right job as the first one, but learn what you can from that experience, build those networks, as Gerald said, and then use that as a platform to get you to the next thing and the next thing and the thing after that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining in the conversation today. And, continue to have these conversations. You don't have to have a big green RV to travel around and talk to people, right? Those who are tuning in, you can reach out into your own local community right now to do that, just like the road trippers did, and ask the same questions and learn about the stories. We just want to thank everyone who tuned in today. Just a reminder that the documentary series is available to watch on our website right now. It's a 4-part documentary series. And while you're there, download the digital toolkit that will help all viewers dive deep into the topics and themes within the documentary. And go ahead and click that subscribe button. We have videos coming out every Tuesday. And lastly, I would just like to thank everyone. AT&T, this event wouldn't have been possible without the support of AT&T. Gerald, Plinio, Karin, for your words of wisdom, thank you so much for joining in and giving that insight. It's super, super valuable to everyone joining in today. Taiheem, Yasmine, Denise, I love your energy. You always bring so much, fun energy to the conversation. It's always good to see and catch up with you all. The Roadtrip Nation team, man. There are so many people who had a hand in making this event come to life and making this film come to life. So thank you all. So much love for the Roadtrip Nation fam. Our producers, Jockey and Dave, who are actually producing from Australia. And last but not least, the audience. You all made it a wonderful event. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. Be sure to subscribe to Roadtrip Nation, and we'll see you all next time.
Deliver live online streaming.